Good morning. All right, so we'll start right on time. Hi, everyone. Before we get started, do you guys have any questions what we went over last week? Okay, that's good. Fran is like shrugging her shoulders, like, I don't know. Well, if you guys have any questions,
I wasn't here last week.
That's right, you weren't here last week. So if you guys have any questions on the listing side, just save your questions towards the end of this session. So I'm just gonna share my screen. So today's, if you guys didn't know, we're going to go over the tenant loop. And then next Tuesday, we're going to do the rental listing. All right, just want to make sure everyone can see my screen. Please just thumbs up or just say yes. Good. All right, awesome. All right, so we're gonna go and add a loop. If you have a document, if I go too fast, please feel free to let me know. To just let me know to slow down. I don't see my chat, so if you're writing on the chat, I probably will not see. Fran, Blakely, if you do monitor the chat, just let me know, okay? All right, so this is where you guys will add your tenant loop. So this is where you can put the address if you're representing a tenant, or their first and last name if you're creating a loop where you're getting the tenancy agency agreement signed. Continue. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to click on tenant loop. Continue. Done. And it will create your loop for you. View loop. So if it says required, it's required. The only item that, it's exempt is obviously the lead paint in case the house was built after 1978. So we kind of put this in order to make it very, very easy for you guys. So tracking form for rentals is right at the top. The easiest way to get this done is if you add your clients. So you're just going to scroll at the bottom and add your clients. I'm going to use Fran Blakely again. And then you just submit the role. So she's a tenant. It already has me listed. So I am going to say that I am, let's see, tenant agent. All right. Please make sure, because if you don't, it's going to say none, and then you're going to have to always add yourself. So this is easier. Fran Blakely, should we do 2 tenants or 1?
You want to put Joe Blakely, and I'll give you another email, or just use my moving with
I
Friday?
can add Marilyn as I did
Okay.
last time. So we'll do 2 tenants. Oops. All right, so we already have all the people that need to be on this loop. So we're gonna go at the bottom. We're gonna start with the exclusive tenant agency agreement. And yes, you do need an exclusive tenant agency agreement if you are showing properties to your tenant. Do not risk it. So look, the autofill comes up right away. Tenant 1, tenant 2, and tenant agent. I'm already listed. Autofill. Much easier. If you had joined our previous mastermind, we already created our profile. So as you can see, the brokerage firms already comes up. The clients already come up. Now, this looks very identical to the buyer exclusive agency agreement. So again, this is where you're going to fill it out. So the tenants, brokerage firm, your name, and then the clients, and then which areas. If you're willing to travel for a tenant all the way to Atlantic County, then you can leave it blank, or you can just write New Jersey. I feel like if you leave something blank, people can always go and alter it. So it's better if you just write it again, or just specific. Let's say Fran is looking in Bergen. and Essex County. You can do it by counties. You can do Bergen, Hudson, Morris, Monmouth, whatever you are willing, wherever you're willing to travel, that you're willing to go that far, then you can add them here. Just remember, just like the buyers, the tenants can choose me to work with, they can choose to work with me just in Bergen County, and then they can hire somebody else for Monmouth, Ocean County, right? So they can have 2 different agents helping them. So be very, very specific. Make sure your client is aware. Now, number 3, agency disclosure. You're saying that you're only a tenant's agent only, or a tenant's agent and disclosed dual agent if the opportunity arises, or a tenant's agent and a designated agent if the opportunity arises. So if you're showing RE/MAX Select properties and they want to submit an application, that's going to be a dual agent. But if your tenant says that they only want you to specifically be their agent, but they don't mind you showing them listings that belong to RE/MAX Select, then it would be the designated agent. For the most part, we're all probably going to pick number 2, right? Because in the event that you end up having, let's say you have a 3-month listing with 3-month agreement with the tenant, or even 6 months or a year, and you happen to have a rental listing, you want to be able to show it to them and rent it to your client, right? At least give them the opportunity to apply. So for the most part, you're going to check number 2, tenant's agent, and disclosed dual agent. All right, but if they say, no, I don't want you to represent both sides, then you're going to have to explain to them, the designated agency, that, hey, okay, fine, but we have 17 offices in New Jersey. We might have a listing that you may be interested in, that would fall under the designated agency. Any questions on that? Okay. The term, so let's say it's gonna start today.
Edona, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you start out as a tenant agent, and then if they find something that becomes dual, just write a dual agency agreement when you write the lease?
Yes, you have the addendum to the exclusive tenancy agency agreement. So you can then add it that the agreement has been amended to reflect that you are now a disclosed dual agent.
Okay, and while I have you, is it done the same way if you want to extend the timeline? Say you took them only for, say you just met them or haven't met them, and you're really giving them just a couple of days on this agreement, and then in 3 days it all expires. Do you go back and you're still working with them? Do you just amend this original one, or do you rewrite a new one?
You can use the addendum to extend it, or if you wanted to go and rewrite this, you can. It's up to you.
Okay, thank you.
That's what the addendum is for. Yep, you're welcome. All right, so the tenant leases property is set forth in section 1. When does this expire? Or at midnight on. So if you are meeting a tenant for the first time, you're not even sure if that client is going to want to work with you, or vice versa, you have the right to also choose if you wanted to work with them or not. Then you can do this to expire that day. You can make this 3 days. You can make it a week. You can make it 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, whatever you want. Please make sure that you put an expiration date. Don't leave this blank. So I'm going to say that I've known Fran for a long time, and every year I do help her find a property. So I am going to say this expires on the 31st. Now here, or blank days, if no days are filled, then 3 days after broker or tenant receives a written termination notice from the other party, but the protection period set forth in section 5 will remain in effect. Now, here is if, let's say Fran and I agreed that our agreement will expire on the 31st, but let's say sometime in November, she's really not happy. I haven't been paying attention to her. I missed a few properties. I didn't send it to her, and she just doesn't think I'm a good fit. And she decides to send me an email saying that, hey, I want to terminate the agreement as of November 1st, 2024. Within 3 days, that agreement is terminated. Now me, if I had showed her 20 properties in the matter of like a week and a half too, I, as the licensee, is required, if you want to be protected, to send an email to the client saying this, acknowledging receipt that the contract is now terminated. However, I have shown you the following properties. In the event you end up leasing any of these properties in the next, whatever your protection period is, you're protected. They're going to owe you a commission. So I'm just going to say 3 days. Now, again, you can choose to say within a day. You can choose 2 days. You can choose a week. Look, if somebody doesn't want to work with you or you don't want to work with them, I think 3 days is very sufficient, and I would leave it at that. But if you say that if a client tells you today they want to cancel the agreement with you, and then it expires within a day, I mean, it terminates within a day, that's fine, then you put in 1 day. But if you want to leave it 3 days, then it's fine. So I'm just going to add 3 days. Now we're going to go to commission to broker. Retainer fee, we do not take retainer fees even for tenants, so you can't go and collect a fee for driving around with them. So we don't take retainers. Commission, as you guys know, and I'm gonna let Fran Blakely just talk to you guys a little bit about it, but if you guys remember, the landlord can still list properties requesting that the tenant pays a 1-month broker fee. Okay, it was a lot of confusion, like how is that going to work? So if you go to your landlord and you say, look, you have options, everything is negotiable, we can still list your house or your apartment and request the tenant pays 1-month broker fee, or you can pay my fee and then the tenant pays their own, or you can pay the 1-month broker fee. It's negotiable. For the most part, landlords, especially on the north side, they're used to having the tenant pay the 1-month broker fee. I know in South Jersey, the landlord pays the broker fee. So if you want to keep it the same, business as usual, you can. Now, what came into play is that, you know, when we are submitting offers on the buyer side and the listing agent says, yep, we're offering 2%, we have the broker compensation, broker to broker compensation agreement that kind of guaranteed us that the listing side is going to pay us the 2%. Well, we didn't have anything for the tenant side, right? So the landlord, the listing agent tells you, hey, Irene, you have a tenant, it's 1-month broker fee. I get it. Most of us are very honest. They shared it. You get your client to write half a check payable to their company and half a check payable to us. But nothing was really, we didn't have any paper trail to guarantee or confirm that we get half a month from the month broker fee. So Fran notified the state, and now we do have a form. When I get to it, I'll have her talk to you guys about it. So now we do have something that you guys need to sign if your tenant is paying the 1-month broker fee. So here is you can do percentage. Obviously, that's not going to reply for rentals. So you're going to either put the total amount, which again, you won't know what it is, or other 1-month broker fee of total rent amount. So that way, if they're looking at something 2,000, it's 2,000. If they're looking at 2,500, it's 2,500. If it's 3,000, it's 3,000. Now here's your protection period and number 3. So if, let's say I had this agreement is till December 31st, and I'm showing Fran and Maryland properties every other, let's say twice a week, 2-3 properties. I say I would want to be protected for 60 days. Again, it's not firm. You guys can choose whatever you want. If, you know, sometimes things fall apart, right? They accept an application and then they wait for a tenant to provide the security, and then they don't, and then it goes back to active. So I'm going to say I want to be protected for 2 months, considering I show them a lot of properties. Now, can this be longer? Yes. If you had a 6-month rental and you're having a hard time getting your client a property and you've been showing them properties every weekend, or even if you show them once a week, you should still protect yourself. So you can choose 180 days, 120 days, whatever you feel comfortable. Now, this is the commission from landlord. Now, again, you're gonna have to have a conversation with your tenants that, you know, for the most part, it's not a violation of fair housing if the landlord requests that the tenant pays the 1-month broker fee. So now this says introduce tenant to all properties that broker believes to be acceptable to tenant regardless of the commission being offered by landlord to broker. So I would tell my client, this is the best case scenario just because, you know, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity. For most of us in North Jersey, the tenant is going to have to really pay the broker's fee. So you're going to want to be able to show them all the properties. You will probably, out of 10, maybe have 1 or 2 where the landlord is paying their own agent and the tenant has to pay you. Now, it also says do not introduce tenant to any properties where the following condition exists. So now if the tenant says, well, I can't afford to pay you a broker fee, only show me where the landlord specifically says that they're paying, then you can choose this option. Or it says include in any offer to lease, the landlord will pay the broker's commission. Again, the likelihood of that happening is like probably very, very, very low. Because again, it's not a fair housing violation. Or you have an other where, you know, they can say I can only pay the buyer's, the tenant agent fee, and to only find them a property where the landlord is paying their own agent and then they pay you. Here's the broker's duties. So they also leave other for you to have anything additional. So let's say if your client is out of state and you will drive them around or whatever, if you agree to anything else. But again, you don't have to, you can leave it blank if you're not offering them anything else. This is the tenant's duty, other tenants, dual agents. So it just explains again what the difference is. And then here you have additional terms. I would probably just add this clause, especially when Irene, you said, hey, what if can I extend it if I'm changing the days? This is where I just want to, even though it says there, I'm going to write it so my client can see it as well. This, I'm going to say broker and tenant agree to amend this tenancy agency agreement at any time. And then you initial it, you also sign it, and then your clients will also initial and sign. So we're going to save this. We're going to go back because we don't want to share all the documents individually to our tenant, which I'll show you guys. Now, here's your addendum to agency agreement. This document is obviously optional because if you're not amending your agreement, then we're not going to make this a requirement. So do you see how much easier it is now that we did add our clients? It's already there. So I'm just going to click on autofill. And I'm going to say that this is an exclusive tenancy agency agreement. And then you write in the date that they signed the agreement, which was today. Now, if this is where you can add if you're amending. So let's say I did it till December 31st, and now we're almost there. And Fran goes, Adona, you know, we haven't found anything. And I'm going to say, let's extend our agency agreement till February 1st. So I'm going to just say the tenancy agency agreement is amended to extend the expiration date to February 1st. So this is what you use your addendum for, and then save. Now, again, you don't have to, if you're just, you know, sometimes it's so much easier, you show them one rental and they ended up getting that particular property, then you won't need this, right? But this is only if you're doing anything to change it.
Okay, Donna, we
Yes.
actually, all right, never mind. It's about please email the recording. I missed some part, Sandy. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, so these recordings, just so you know, they are now in our hub. So I will send out an email just showing you guys where to find the hub and where you can watch all the recorded videos that we've been doing since August. So if you ever wanted to go back and rewatch a video, you'll be able to go there. All right, so next to it, we have the CIS. So if you guys see, we put these in orders to make it easier for you. So you guys know that the exclusive tenant agency agreement comes with the CIS, because on that form, it says that you already provided your client with the consumer information sheet. So let me just make sure this is it. Autofill, and it's already there for you. So this is already pre-filled. So I represent the tenant. So I'm just going to put in today's date and save. So it's already set for my clients to sign it. And I will send this to along together with the tenant agency agreement. Next, we have the informed consent to dual agency. So again, this doesn't mean that only if you represent them and you have your own rental listing. This is for any RE/MAX Select. So we do have a lot of rentals. So you want to make sure you have that conversation with your client, that they're aware and they are okay with dual agency. So I will just put in my name here. And then RE/MAX Select. And then they will sign. It's so much easier if you get them to sign before than you going after the fact, after they got the lease, because then you're going to have a harder conversation with them, letting them know why it's needed. They're going to say, well, why didn't you have this done before? Why you're sending this to me now? So it's so much easier if you guys get in a habit of, I know it looks like it's a lot of documents, but this is like a huge investment for them too, right? This is their home. So they should not be okay with signing one document. If I'm buying something or renting, I want to see everything. And if my agent is sending me 2 documents today because they want to show me how easy it is, and then after I close, they're like, oh, guess what? You need to sign XYZ. I'm going to lose trust in my agent, saying, why did they wait till now? Were they trying to trick me? What are they hiding? Even though these forms are just required form either by RE/MAX Select or the state. So now after that, we have the lead paint disclosure for lease. Now, again, this is something you will get from the listing agent. So if it was built prior to 1978, you need to make sure you have the lead paint. If you have the lead paint, you need to make sure you send your client the lead paint disclosure. It's not required. It's always been required, but it seemed like we didn't have the initials before. So now if the lead paint is required, you want to send it to them, and then their initials are here. They're just acknowledging that they read it. Whether they read it or not, it's up to them. You just want to make sure you assign it so they know you gave it to them. And save. And again, if you don't need the lead paint, just let the admin of your office know, and they will switch these 2 requirements to optionals. Like, you guys won't be able to do it, but the manager and the admins can. So just reach out. Most likely the admin will be the easiest person to contact. Just let them know, hey, I have a rental. It's built after 1978. Now you have the truth in renting. Again, just initial. I'm sorry, this one they're gonna have to sign. So, oops. There's so many pages. Signature. Save. So again, whether they read it or not, it's up to them. This is a requirement for you to send it to them. You want to make sure you have it in your file. Now, this is the landlord notice to request for flood zone. So again, this is not you filling it out. They need to provide this to you guys, okay? So please make sure you receive this from the listing agent. If they don't give it to you, if they say, oh, this is an investment, my landlord's never going to fill it out, please reach out to your managers and we will reach out to their broker. It's a requirement by law. We need to have this. Okay. Please do not fill this out for the listing agent. And then your client sign after after they have it signed by the sellers, the landlords and the landlord's agent. The next thing is obviously we have the lease application. It's there. So this is if you wanted to, some agents request that this is filled out so you can have this filled out and have your clients sign it so you can attach it with the report. And then right after we have the residential lease, obviously sometimes it's, if you are the one preparing it, sometimes the landlord's agent, they want to prepare the lease, but it's here. And then you have this is the cooperating broker compensation agreement that Fran, thank you for doing this for us and for notifying the state. Now, if your tenant is paying the 1 month broker fee, please make sure you send this with the lease and make sure this is signed, you fill it out. So, you put in today's date, the broker, which is the listing side, then this is us, then you list the brokerage firm, the landlord's broker, and then the address. And then this is where you says, however, tenant has decided that it is in their best interest to offer compensation to a cooperating broker and has authorized and instructed in writing its broker to offer compensation to cooperating brokers as set forth. So you can either pick landlord or tenant. So if your landlord is paying the 1 month broker fee and you're splitting the broker fee with the tenant's agent, you still need this document. And then provide the tenant's broker or landlord's broker receives compensation for the transactions from its principal. So it gives you the option whether the tenant's paying the 1 month broker fee or the landlord. And then you pick which one is getting the half. And this is where you put in the amount. Most of the time, it's not going to be a percentage. Now, at this point, you might know the dollar amount. If like the rental is, $3,000, you can add that. So it would be under under the dollar sign. And then you have the tenant's agent signed and the landlord agent signs. So you want to make sure you have this together with your lease. Now, what I'm going to tell you guys, and I've seen it, and I know all of our leadership that's on this call, they're going to nod their head yes. Please, if you represent the landlord, do not, or the tenant, do not give them the lease or the keys of the properties without you collecting your broker fee. You know how many brokers fee we have lost? Because if you're just getting $1,000, who's going to sue a tenant? It's going to cost you more filing for lawsuit against them. We've seen it happen where the tenant moves in, the broker trusted them that they will get paid, and then the tenant doesn't pay them, and then they just ghost you. So do not, if you're on the landlord side, do not give the keys to the tenant side or their agent without you collecting your broker fee. And your client's security deposit. Sometimes, let's say you have a rental now and it's move-in day November 1st. They tell you, okay, can my tenant pay the 1 month, first month rent towards end of the month? They're going to get paid. Sure, but I need to get the security deposit and the broker's fee now for me to mark that this transaction has been leased. Once we collect the 1 month rent, then I will go ahead and give you the keys as well as the lease.
Tone, I have a question on this section.
Yes.
So line 28. So if I'm collecting from the tenant the 1 month fee, so I've got a rental I'm working on now. The rental amount is, let's call it 6,000 a month. So I'm going to collect the 6,000, 3 to us, 3 to the listing agent. Can I put in here on line 31 50% of the 1 month rental fee and then call out the amount?
You can do it that way.
Okay.
Or you can put it under, you can say like 3,000.
And other? Or
Yes,
as a flat
or
fee?
others, or you can put in here where it says 50% of the 6,000.
Yeah, that's the way I did it, just to be very specific.
Yep, you can do it that way as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then just please remember, we do not take Zelle. We do not take Venmo. We do not give the client our bank account. Please make sure, sometimes we'll take cash, but depending what the amount is, right? So please, also, we don't take personal checks. We've made some exceptions, but just think about it. With personal checks, that person can go to their bank and claim that it was fraud, and then they get the money back. So don't be in that position. Make sure you tell your client that they're going to need a money order or a bank check. All right. So after that, so of course you have some optional, if you need the window guard, informed consent to designated agency. You also have the non-exclusive. Obviously, we don't really work with non-exclusive, but it's there. I just left it as an optional in case you guys need it. And then you have also the commission check addendum. So this is where you can fill out your commission statement. Do you guys have any questions? This is your time.
Okay, I have a question. I understand I've been doing it all along on dotloop, putting in the client's name and info on the very bottom. But how do you said you were going to show where we fill out, where automatically we pop up with the office name, phone number, all that, so we don't have to keep repeating it. How do you get that in there?
Yes, so we did a whole session that will take a long time, but
Oh,
you
okay.
see where my picture is here, you go into your account and then you go to your profile. This is your profile, and then you change it. So you see where I have all my information, Remax Select.
Okay,
This is where you add all the information.
perfect. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I can go to I have a lot of profiles, but this is my profile. I have all my licenses, the company name, the company, my office address, everything will be there.
Got it. All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Fran, do you have anything else you want to add for rentals that I have not covered or?
Yeah, it's just as we, we can't post anything about the compensation in the listings. So when people are calling to schedule the showings for your rent, I would just tell them at that point that the landlord, and of course, in your listing, I would have the landlord sign off on that they are only willing to accept tenants or show the property to tenants that are willing to pay the full month's compensation. But you can't write that in the listing. That's like a verbalization you're gonna have to transfer because nothing can be in there about the compensation.
You know what? I have to say that's actually not what's going on. There's a space when you fill out the forms to place the listing, and you can see on rentals, there's tenant/landlord pays or tenant pays the fee. That's coming up all the time
On
And
Garden
which-
State.
on
Yeah,
Garden State.
yeah, the law is that it can't be published in the MLS. Okay,
But it's actually one of the fields.
It's one of the fields, but there's no fields when you're entering that in the MLS to enter that in the computer.
But there is. I just did 2 of them and there is. And then when I show, there's others that show the same thing that says tenant, tenant pays fee.
I don't know, Adona, I don't use Garden State as much as maybe some of the other offices.
So every MLS will probably work different. It is true, Garden State MLS will allow you to kind of check mark, like if the landlord, if the tenant is required to pay the 1-month broker fee. You shouldn't just write it under agent remarks. So if your MLS does not have that option, don't go ahead and write it saying that landlord requires the tenant pays the 1-month broker fee. Because remember, we're not supposed to really discuss or post commission on the MLS. So don't be the one to add it. If your MLS has a checkbox saying, click here, if landlord requires, tenant pays the commission, that's fine. Anything else, you guys? This is your time to ask questions. Just make sure, don't make the mistake of showing a property without the tenant agency agreement, because that one $2,000 rental can cost your license. So don't risk it. It's not worth it. It is going to get cold outside. It's going to start raining, snowing. Don't wait to have things signed on top of the car. I would highly recommend that you guys have that conversation prior going to the property. Now, when you represent the landlord and a tenant is calling you, an unrepresented tenant is calling you to show the rental, that's fine, because at that point you need to disclose it that you represent the landlord only. But if you start working with that tenant, make sure you have the agreement signed. And I feel like the tenant loop is very easy to follow. Everything is line by line. All the required documents are in order. So we just want you guys to be protected. Make sure you have them signed on time. And like I said earlier, don't wait after the fact, especially with the flood risk notice. Some agents, they had so many rental listings, they don't have their clients sign these forms. And then we're put in a bad position, right? The tenant has the right to know if that property has been flooded. Even if it's a high-rise building and, the parking is on the first level and, we've seen it where the parking gets flooded, the tenant has the right to know that. So please make sure you get those signed. I didn't realize how fast we will go over the tenancy, but since I have you guys all here, please don't forget to sign up for the holiday party, which is December 4th. We've been sending out the invites, so please make sure you guys register. It's going to be so much fun. We have a new DJ, so if you've been to our parties and you were not a fan of our DJ, just so you know, we do have a new DJ this year. So it's going to be
Also, Adona, maybe on .loop, since we just have a few minutes, just show them the scroll down list of different loops, different files that they can create when creating a file, like how there's a loop for the NJMLS listings, how there's a loop for the Garden State listings. Just put new loop or whatever.
Yeah, so this is what Fran is
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
So when you represent a buyer, this is your buyer loop. This is if you have a referral. We have really done the best that we can to make it very easy. So if you're sending or receiving a referral, this is the loop. Then for listing loops, we made it much easier. So we created different folders. So Garden State MLS loop, New Jersey, Hudson, Monmouth, Old Jersey. So this is if you are selling a property. Then right underneath you have the landlord loop. So if it's GS, NJ, Hudson, Monmouth, Old Jersey. Then you have the tenant loop, and then you have a commercial loop. So it's very, very easy. Now, if you are listing something on NJMLS or Garden State MLS, sometimes it falls into the territory of NJMLS. As long as you have the Garden State MLS listing form, you don't have to get another form signed by NJMLS, unless it's like a change form or a withdrawal form. As you guys realize by now, if you had a listing, they're not collecting the listing forms from us unless you get audited. I've seen a lot of audits in Monmouth Ocean County, where they give you 48 hours to send back your listing or your tenant or buyer agency agreement. So I started seeing those, so make sure you have it in your file. And then, let's see.
And the one other thing I've noticed coming in, and just be careful when you're writing up an offer to purchase, make sure the listing agent is sending you an updated seller's disclosure that they have had their client execute the proper seller's disclosure. Because I've had 2 of them come in that were disclosures from years ago, and they don't have the flood risk section in them at all. So, you know, you really have to, you're signing that form, which also says that you've reviewed it. So it's your responsibility to make sure, and you don't want to get stuck chasing them down to have a flood risk section signed on another, you know, sending them a flood risk section. We
So
want to
this-
make sure we have the correct seller's disclosure when we're making an offer on a property.
And you'll know if you're using the correct one by looking at the bottom, it has the date.
Date.
So this was done, the latest update is February 2024. So you want to make sure this is the version that you guys are using. And then the flood risk will be at the bottom. Another thing, since we have a few minutes, is sometimes, let's say you did a GSMLS, but you need something for NJMLS. I just want you guys to see where the documents are. So you go add a document, templates. Now, if you're looking for another listing form from an MLS or a RE/MAX Select document, you're going to scroll down where it says all RE/MAX Select 2024. So if I start typing NJMLS, this is where I can pull up all the exclusive listing forms. Any documents that belong to NJMLS will be here. So every MLS, it's going to have the same thing. So Hudson and, you know, GS, let me just type this. So they will all be here. Okay, so this is where you have all the GSMLS forms. Now, if you're looking for a CIS, a lead paint disclosure, the seller disclosure, any New Jersey form, it will all be at the bottom. So for the first time, if you've never opened this form, this file, it's gonna ask you for your NRD number. Once you have your NRD number in it, you can view all the forms. So this is where you have, like, let's say you're looking for the buyer exclusive agency agreement. So you have all the addendums and everything that belongs to the buyers. So here's the buyer exclusive agency agreement. Now, if I'm looking for the CIS, right here. So this is for the buy sell, and the one at the bottom is for tenants. Let me just see, because I can't exit. There you go. So if I'm looking for lead paint, it's going to be here. So just please make sure you guys do visit these. These are the only 2 folders you will really need to see to look for a document. So just start typing it and then it'll come up. Any questions?
There isn't anything in the chat, so we're good.
Everyone's like so quiet. Guys, if you like, this is your time. If you had a situation or if you want help in getting something filled out, let us know. We'll be more than happy to go over it.
Yep.
Okay, so that will complete the session. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.